Hello and welcome everyone to WIldin Out. Your host Marty B, and joining me tonight I have Seth and Hyperin. Let's head over to Seth. Seth, how you doing? It's been a while.
I'm good. I'm glad to be back, at least for one appearance. School's been busy, but I'm glad to be here.
Happy to have you on. Really good to see you. Hyperin, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, very happy to be here. Happy to be here with Seth. It's been our first time together, so yeah, looking forward to going over our THL stuff.
Yeah, it should be very fun. So with that, a lot to talk about as always. So let's get into it. Seth, you want to start us off with the player of the week?
Sure. So our player of the week is OT Zaisha, and this write-up comes from Geranium Battle, so thank you to him. Um, Geranium said, OT Zaisha sweeps into player of the week with a 3-0 sweep over YoDaddy and a 14-11 victory for team at any cost wild. OTZ has been having such a dominant performance this season that it feels like he could have been the player of many weeks, but in particular, this win halts APM's momentum while bringing his team back into the fray at any cost. One thing I can't wait to find out after this win is his name just short for Al TK Zaisha. So thank you, Geranium.
Much appreciated there. Well, with that, on to the next segment. We have decks to discuss. Take a look at that meta overview chart for all of you. So going from the top, uh, Demon Hunter, one fewer archetype from the week before. Just aggro left. Druid seeing a drop from the previous week. -10 brings. Okay. Cthulhu and Linecracker both decreased about the same amount, and that's where the decrease can be seen. Hunter increases a little bit, +2 brings. Even Hunter is now the most common Hunter deck, so that's been on the rise. Odd Hunter has fallen slightly, say. Mage, pretty stable too. One extra bring uh, compared to the week before. And now we have a small secret mage population showing up. So this is very similar to pre-nerf when Rogue was a bunch of very niche and fringe archetypes, and then you'd see a few Pillager Rogues. Mage is basically that, except instead of Pillager Rogue, you have Secret Mage. Now we move on to Paladin. Paladin saw a small increase, 4 more brings than before. Aggro Paladin being the primary archetype, seeing a bunch of other little ones, but again, it's mostly Aggro Paladin. Next up, Priest. Priest is a big winner. 6 more brings than the previous week. Aggro Priest's population is almost doubled. It was 13 the week before. Now we're at 22. That's where the biggest increase is. Rogue falls slightly down to 19 from 22. Shaman drops from 44 to 38. We see the vast majority being free Shaman. That's where most of the drop was, but we also had some drops in other archetypes as well. Warlock increases by 1 to 45. We're seeing Owl Warlock with a modest presence. We were predicting it might have been a little higher this week, but doesn't seem to be the case. People are still playing a lot of Mechathune Warlock over it instead. So we'll have to see if that changes next week as well. And finally, we're seeing an increase with 6 more brings than the previous week. This has all been going to Pyro Warrior. Warrior is pretty much a one-trick pony, but that one trick is really good. And so we're going to see that population stay pretty high there. You guys have any other comments you want to make before we move on?
I do.
Yeah.
I really, the meta, if you want to call it, still fresh. There's a lot to be explored, which we might get into later. And I know the mini set's coming up, but there is quite a bit of diversity, even though it may feel like certain decks definitely choke out other ones. In Conquest specifically, there's so much experimentation and fun lineups you can bring, and I think that that's what keeps the Wild series so interesting is that there's so much you can do, especially with a ban in your pocket. So I'm really glad to see all these different decks being brought, and I'm sure this coming week we'll see quite a bit more experimentation.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think pre-nerf, Odd Hunter and Ignite Mage were like two of the most common like bans, along with Shaman. So the fact that those have just been like effectively already banned, like some maybe brought sometimes, but like they're very niche now. So with that, that lets you spend your ban elsewhere, and in general just opens up a lot more format possibility. So I definitely agree with Seth there.
Here's hoping. We'll have more to discuss about the mini set a bit later. For now, though, you guys were mentioning decks. Let's take a look at some more unique ones back on the main screen. Hyper, you want to tell us about our first featured deck of the week?
Of course. So here we have a little bit of Secret Hunter from none other than a nice Jewish owl, and yeah, I think Secret Hunter's been pretty interesting. It's got a lot of support from recent times. I know this latest expansion brought it a couple good tools to work with, like a Bunker and Tavish and even Drekthar. I do like Secret Hunter a lot. I think it plays pretty similarly to Even Hunter, a little less aggressive, probably better into stuff like Pirate Warrior because you have like Explosive Trap and you go really wide with Petting Zoo, Spellstone, that kind of stuff. Um, I think any deck that can really fit a Drekthar in it, it can't be too bad, right? Because Drekthar is just a really really good card. So it is interesting to find more homes for him, wherever he can really fit, and pulling off Gossipers and Cloaked Huntresses really really good. Getting playing a 4 mana 4/4, getting 2/3 drops, and then playing a whole bunch of secrets out for free is very strong, especially when you follow it up with a board full of 3/3s. So uh, that can definitely do some good stuff. Got some good synergy. It's always fun to see stuff like this.
Yeah, definitely agree with a lot of those sentiments there. There's some really cool stuff, and like you said, it's very similar to Even Hunter. Uh, Main thing in it, it's a Drekthar deck, and if you have a Drekthar deck, then it's gonna win games no matter what.
Hmm.
So works here.
Yep, it definitely works.
And now on the other end of the spectrum, we have a very expensive deck in terms of mana cost. Seth, you want to tell us about it?
Yeah, so Triple Lift brought Clown Druid, and it utilizes a really similar shell to Linecracker Druid or Cthulhu Druid. But for his top end, he's elected to use Carnival Clowns, Coon to refresh mana and corrupt the clowns, Yashraj for two more boards of clowns, and Survival of the Fittest on top of all that if you can't seem to win with four waves of clowns. And I like where his head's at with this because it gives you a little more proactivity and you're not as reliant on drawing Guff to combo. Like with Linecracker, you can combo without Guff, but it's a little more difficult and it's much easier to just play Guff on 5 and then combo soon after. But with this, you can afford to kind of ramp a little more in the early game. Of course, you've got Oaken Summons to help you stall out to your combo. And then, you can drop Clowns as soon as turn, 5 or 6, and that's pretty hard to beat. And it gives you a little more um, finishing power than just sitting through a 30-minute Linecracker game, waiting for your opponent to inevitably die to fatigue.
For sure. Uh, One of the things we didn't mention, and I don't think we're going to be covering later. We're not. So, uh, everyone knows the meme, which noob lost a hero power mage. I'm proud to report that this noob did not lose to hero power mage this week. With triple sweep, he avoided the inevitable hero power mage loss. Does it mean he beat it, or did his opponent just not queue it? The world may never know.
I have to imagine they didn't queue it. That's an auto loss for Triple if there's no way he swept if they played Hero Power Mage. So,
Uh,
mm,
Huge congrats to Triple F. This is This is a really big step up and possibly a gateway for good things to come if he can overcome a challenge like this. Who knows what he's capable of.
We're all proud of you for standing up to and defeating and taking out your demons. So good job, Triple Lift. Now on the match recaps. So before we get into that, we have standings on the screen. Okay, at the very top we have F12 Viridian, 130 points, 6-1 record. Hardest schedule so far of all wild teams. Very impressive there. Gonna be interesting to see if any team can knock them off the top pedestal this season. Next up, Rumble Test Shakers, 121 points. The only team that has a win against F12 Viridian. Gonna shout them out there. Seth, don't let this get to your head too much. But
It's too late. It's too late. It's way too late.
I'm gonna take it back then. Rub-a-dub-dub. You guys suck.
Good drawing. Think you have a career as a rapper in your future?
Ben Brode has been teaching me. I plan on it. Anyways, on to the next. Tiger fans, 116 points, just 5 points below Rumble Tusk. They have a bit of a drop. South Sea Legends with our co-host Hyperin representing them, 108 points. Then everyone's a winner, 2 points below. Sixth place is a very tight race, though. We have Hair Club in sixth right now, the 100 points, but tied with them is Team at Any Cost Wild. Then below them, just by 1 point, is Aussie Pilgrimains APM. So we have 3 teams all within 1 point for that final position. And right below them is Bastros at 93 points, still very much in this as well. So it's a super tight race. Then we get into the reaches, a bit more below. The Polymers at 80 points, Turdy Workies, Poggy Woggies, 2 at 76 points, and Wild Teach Fax at 75 points. Playoffs are looking a little bit less likely, but still possible. Just really, though, looking at this playoff race for the final spot, I don't think we've ever seen a race this tight at this point in the season in Wild. Should make for some very exciting stories and races as the final weeks wind down. So with that, how about we talk about one of them, Seth? Actually, 2 of them.
Kind of following up on that race for the 6th seed, we've got Aussie Pilgrimains versus Team at Any Cost Wild, with Team at Any Cost Wild taking the win 14-11, especially thanks to our player of the week, OTZ. He took a sweep over Yo Daddy. Swaguar took a 3-1 win over Maxibon. King Ogre took a 3-2 over Bone Masher. Quake was able to sweep Duocat to pick up some points for APM, and Slight also took a 3-2 win over Pokeniner. But this was a really close match, and I've been really, really impressed with Team at Any Cost Wild. I kind of slept on them a little bit at the start of the season, but they've really changed my mind. They've worked hard and kind of proved that, they're here to compete. They're no slouches. So seeing them take down APM, who's had kind of a rough start to the season, is still a big win. And no shade to APM either. They're just kind of struggling about like we were this time last season. So I'm sure they'll bounce back, but hopefully they can wait till next week, which we'll get into later.
Yeah, there's also some news with Team at Any Cost Wild. Duocat has stepped aside and is no longer with the team. Taking his place is Wild regular Xtuliop. So, sure, plenty of Wild players know about Tulio through Twitch and Discord, as well as Twitter. Recently hit rank 1 with Frog Shaman. So he's pretty good at the game. And he should make Team at Any Cost Wild a bit spookier now. So watch out for the frogs. How about we go to the next matchup then? We have F2 Viridian versus the Pog Merchants. It's a clean sweep for Viridian here. Corp and I getting the sweeps. Meowth getting a 3-1. And Rotted and Neji fighting over that 4 seed. Both getting 3-2 wins. I say fighting, but the truth is Neji's really happy that Rotted won. He says he's never felt more at home than in the 5 seed. So very happy about that there. Uh, one thing to note, notice all warrior bands here from our side. We just didn't want to deal with Pirate Warrior. Pog Merchants all brought Pirate Warrior. Other than that, their lineups were very varied. And getting rid of the one common denominator let us really hone in our lineup building and focus on targets. It's kind of exactly what we did here. Meowth hit his target. I brought a similar lineup and hit my target against Rin. I was trying to beat Greed and combo. Broaded targeted a Pillager Rogue, and after losing the first two, was able to get the reverse sweep on the Pillager. And Neji was able to soft target Shaman with his lineup. And if it weren't for the deck being mine and me feeling bad for the self promo, I would have featured the Reno Paladin he brought. So gotta call it out. You would do it too if you were in my spot. Yeah, Pog Merchants only getting 5 points here. This really hurts their playoff chances. Uh, we tend to do that, I guess, and it's kind of sucky. But everyone has to come together when these weeks happen and really rally from them. They still have 4 weeks, so there's a good chance they can. But it's going to take some big wins over the next few weeks to turn it around.
You guys are bullies. I believe this is the second week in a row you've gotten a 20-point week.
You know what we did the week before that? We
You
lost.
lost. Yeah, that's
You woke
right.
the bear. You woke the bear.
The
This
bear
is your
should go back
fault.
into hibernation.
Well, this is all your fault, so you can blame yourself.
We
We're coming
poked the
for you
bear, but
next.
we didn't quite scare it off.
Which noobs beat F2 Viridian?
That is a true
Hyperin,
statement.
Hyperin is shaking in his boots as he says that.
uh,
Well, yeah. I wouldn't say there's much more to say about this. Pog Merchants just rough week for them, but still have time to turn it around. Got to really do it soon. Hopefully they can pull it together. All right, and our final match, Hyperin. This involves your team. What do you have to say about this?
was a this is a very very good week for our team. See, we also scored full points. Not quite as cleanly as F2L did, but still definitely huge for our team. I took a 3-1 victory over Bitbeaker, Blue Thingies, Nin City, and Sinferno. All took 3-2 victories over Labore, Gumby, and Kyrex, and then No Way as well, taking a 3-1 over Slad. Um, One thing I do want to note, this week was just Shaman, Warlock, and Warrior, and then miscellaneous decks. There was so like everybody about Shaman, everybody except for Gumby brought Warlock, and then everybody except for No Way and Bitbeaker brought Warrior. So those are kind of the three common decks here, and you can see Wild THL Fanatics almost all banning Shaman, Kyrex opting for the Priest ban instead. So, I think some of the main obviously we had our deck stats earlier to highlight it, but those are definitely some of the strongest conquest decks at the moment, and it pays off. The Yeah, there's a little variety in the specific decks. I think No Way brought Glare. He's huge on Glare, but yeah, it's definitely a good week for us. Sorry to Wild THL Fanatics, but also not really sorry because we need the points to to try and get in playoffs. So yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be a close race as things tighten up. Things have already been tightening up over the last few weeks, and they're still very close, as we said before. So it should be exciting.
Yeah.
With that, let's take a look at the upcoming week as well. We have two matchups previewed. So our first one, uh, actually, I'm so stupid, guys. I do this all the time. I mix things up. It's totally fine. We're actually going to go to player power rankings first. How could I forget? Man, I'm not even on the list this time. How could I do this? I'm so bad. Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm on the list and I'm just forgetting about it. I'm so bad. I could see. I have more self promo, guys. This is how not to run a show. Okay. Yeah, we all forgot. It's fine though. Hyperin, please save me from myself. Tell me about the honorable mentions.
Of course. So yeah, as usual, got your five honorable mentions here. Starting with Hopper, still 5-2. Actually, all of these players are 5-2. Pretty much everybody you'll see here is everybody in on this entire page is a significant player at this point. Yeah, Hopper 5-2 with 15 PAR. Swag and Swagger and Tagger both at tied with 16 PAR. Lasagna just above with 17, and then Nops, just barely out of the top 10 with 18 PAR.
Yeah, and just outside is right because at number 10 we have White Delight, also at 18 PAR, coming in at number 10 with a 5-2 record as well, but 17 and 11 game record. So slightly higher win percentage there. Then at 8th and ninth, it's Triple Lift and I, both 5-2 as well, 19 PAR. Seth, the self-proclaimed bad player, is at 20 PAR, which means everyone below is also bad. Sucks to be me. I know. Sixth, we have Tiger Eye at 6-1, 23 points above replacement. Memnarch, also 6-1, 25 par. Hyprin, the only good player on this cast, if you were to take Seth's word here, at 26 PAR. Then we have Get Me Out at 28. OT Zaisha, our player of the week, at 29. And Korb coming in first place this week at 33 par. So very well done to everyone here, except for all the ones below Seth, because apparently since he's bad, you're also bad. Really, congrats.
Yeah.
Now,
Go ahead.
yeah, now this time, I can't screw this up because we have match previews next, and I've already said it. So let's move on to the match preview. Our first one, Seth, we're going to be covering your team. It's Rumble Tusk Shakers versus Aussie Pillager Mains. So let's just take a look at these lineups first. Tiger Eye at the top versus Yo Daddy. We featured Yo Daddy last week, I believe, or 2 weeks ago. Or we featured them on the show before with their decks brought. We see Beast Druid showing up now. Okay, on that side, pretty interesting. It's been deck popping up the last week or so. I know I played it in EU and it did very well for me. Summer Sing has tier 1 potential, but it's looking very good, and it's no surprise that we're already seeing it in Conquest here. Something I want to point out, the amount of Owl Warlock we see. Okay, we were mentioning before, Owl Warlock will probably start blowing up eventually, and it looks like this may be the week. Okay, 4 hour warlocks on the Shaker side, and 3 of them, sorry, on APM side. Also of note, 4 inner fire priests from the Shaker side, 4 pirate warriors, and 5 free shamans. Okay, then we look at APM side, only 3 free shamans, but 5 pillager rogues, 4 priests, 2 inner fire, and 2 aggro. So definitely some patterns here, I'd say. What do you guys think?
I won't give away team secrets.
Man, liking the the five rogues, of course from Aussie Pillager Mans. Seems like Yo Daddy's straying a little bit away from their namesake, but still bringing rogues, so it kind of counts. They're just
Close enough.
Aussie rogue mans.
Close enough. With that, let's take a deeper dive into the decks here. We're featuring Seth's decks against his opponent, Bone Masher. Seth, this is your match, so tell us what was going through your mind when you were building this lineup. Very curious to hear about this.
Well, I'll start off. Not a lot goes through my mind, period. But occasionally, when I get up the gumption to try and build a lineup, um, I have this special technique, patented, by the way. It's called smoking copium. And what you do is you throw a dart at a dartboard with all the wild decks listed, and whatever it lands on is what you target. So this week, I took down every other sticky note except for the one that said Pillager, and I threw the dart right at it. And then I ignored that advice by bringing Owl Warlock. But in all sincerity, I brought three decks that I thought would do well into Pillager. And I also brought Owl Warlock because it's new. I've been experimenting with it on ladder, and I think it's a really good deck on its own. So I didn't want to pigeonhole myself too hard trying to go for the Pillager read. And I'm pretty confident that Owl Warlock can pick up a win against a different deck. So while I didn't really go for the full Pillager target, I wanted to have that soft target so that I could try and pick up some easy wins. And even if I can't win, try and at least score some points for my team.
Fair enough. Some solid stuff in here. See a Viper. We were actually talking about this before the show, and I think I coined it the flat Earth build, where we have a Viper and a Geist together. Okay, so this is super tech for Owl Warlock and Inner Fire Priest, correct? Seth?
And he brought neither.
Naturally, but it's okay.
Naturally.
It's okay, because as Geist always says to your opponent, you yummy, so you'll just eat it all up and beat them anyway. Yeah, you get rid of the wind chills. You can go infinite and without worrying about playing the sleep breaker. It'll be fine.
You also might notice the risky skipper in the Pirate Warrior. I'm a fan. I just gotta say it's kind of like a panic button of sorts. Like, say I queue into a pillager and they tempo uh, a spirit on 4, and I'm afraid I can't clear it with cannon shots. Well, risky skipper solves all your problems. The spirit has 3 health. The skipper has 3 health. That's 3 ticks, and it's dead. So skipper was
You know,
kind of an aggro tech, and I think it's got some viability against shaman too to keep me from getting board locked. But it's not my worst idea. So
it's funny. I can already see it now. Somewhere in the world, Triptolift is watching this stream and just smiling and nodding his head at Risky Skipper.
uh,
So, beyond that, though, um, I know that there's two different versions of Inner Fire Priest. For those not familiar, there's Drekthar version, which plays very much like an aggro deck, and there's a spell-heavy Nobrigan infantry version, which is very hard traditional combo. You're kind of not doing anything, and then all of a sudden you just kill your opponent. You went with the Drekthar version. Any insight on that? Was it mostly because of Weblord or something else?
yeah, I think Weblord is a huge boost to the deck, and especially trying to account for Pillager. I really, really, really wanted that extra chance to give myself a couple turns. You know, Pillager isn't really packed full of removal, So if I can stick a web lord, that gives me at least a couple turns to try and advance my game plan and hopefully kill him before he can answer my big minions.
Right. So let me go to Bone Mashers lists. Hyperin, what's going on here? There's a lot on the screen.
Something's going on. So we've got I'll start with I guess the most normal deck I think on this list. We have a free shaman, a pretty standard build. I do want to note the one exception to that statement is the unseen saboteur. Um, if I had to guess, I would wager it's tech for the owl TK. You can get rid of their phylactery ahead of time, or you know make them give themselves a bunch of mistresses or something. Just if you hit the right card, then you just win. So you could see that holding off, or maybe you just play it in the shaman mirror and get a random 5-drop when it casts evolve. Um, over on Rogue, got Pillager Rogue, of course. They're the Pillager mains. What else do they bring? These last two decks is Priest and Paladin. A little bit off the standard. The Priest, I know Corb is experimenting with this a little bit on stream. It's Shadow Priest, but much more like burn focused. With all the Death Rattle minions and knife vendors and a lot. It does I think a lot better into like decks that you really can't like fight for board as well against, just because you have more burn, so you can deal more damage. That's and into stuff like stuff like the warlock decks, because if all your minions get cleared, specifically the main thing cut here is the pirate package. So if you're not going to get any value out of the pirates anyways, might as well get in chip damage from death rattles. um and then lastly, paladin. Hyrule Paladin. We have the tip of scales. Anything can happen. Murloc combo, of course, with Nas. Um, and I do want to note the Allura as well with mailbox answers. So definitely definitely a fun deck. Hopefully he manages to hit the combo correctly, or it's definitely one of those decks that can just brick if you draw poorly. So.
Yeah, I played a lot of it, and it's certainly a cheese deck.
Hmm.
If they know the way to describe it, but it's a fun one. Seth, you're gonna have a great time playing against it. I
I'm
promise.
so afraid. I'm so afraid.
uh,
Codemash, we're gonna make him ban that paladin. You
just
watch.
just rig the decks, put all the expensive spells on the very top of his deck. You're
Sounds like a
Yeah.
perfect plan. I'll make sure to call up my uncle that works at Blizzard and see if he can handle that for me.
good.
Yeah,
uh,
just change one of his cards to Polk Out. It's easy.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Well, running out of time, so let's head out on over to the second preview that we have. This is Turdy Workies, Poggy Woggies 2 versus Hair Club. Seth, want to run us down the lineups real quick?
Sure. So for Turdy Wordies, Poggy Woggies 2, Nine Eyebrows as that aggro DH that has kind of become synonymous with him. He's keeping Demon Hunter afloat in your archetype chart. But he also brought Reno Paladin, again, your creation. And then most of his team brought Inner Fire Priest, except for Tavin, and then some sort of shaman, be it Freeze or Frog Shaman. I see a few Owl Warlocks, some Odd Hunters. Not very many Pirate Warrior, though, which is pretty noteworthy.
Yeah. Before you
And
continue, I just want to shout out. That's actually an original Reno Paladin. I had no input on that. That was actually made before I made mine and used it this month to climb to Legend, the one that's been propagating around. So that is a Nine Eyebrows original.
props to him. And then on Hair Club side, they're a little more unified with their brings. A couple even warlocks, and then a couple OTK warlocks, two owl, one mechathune. I see a lot of inner fire priest, free shaman, and quest rogue, and then they're split between beast druid and Cthulhu druid. I know that Beast Druid has seen a lot of interest this week, especially, and it's seeing a lot of experimentation. So I'm kind of excited to see how that pans out, and it should be a pretty good week. Turdy Workies really needs to score some big points, but to stay in the playoff race. But Hair Club needs to score more to stay in the sixth seed, or to, I'm sorry, excuse me, to advance above the sixth seed and try and secure their spot. So this is a pretty important week for both teams. And I believe Hyperin has some matches, or has Copa's lists to show to us for our preview match.
Yes, he
Yeah,
does actually.
I do. So moving over. Here we have four decks that are I think pretty focused on killing off forward. I've got Quest Rogue, again very good, especially into the slower decks. Decks like LTK or Shaman or Druid just gives you the time to wrap up your 5/5 chargers. Inner Fire Priest, specifically the spell version. Again, you have the Nomergon infantry, buff it up a whole bunch, Divine Spirit, Blast, or Inner Fire, and smack them with a 64/64, or just Potion of Madness their own minion and use that instead. Frog Shaman, much more niche shaman deck. I do think like three people from their team brought it. Um, but yeah, here I had the Frog Shaman, the Tulio rank 1 deck. Pretty fun to play. Very solid into decks that are weak to burn strategies. Obviously, stuff like again LTK or Mechathune. And then Odd Hunter, definitely fallen off a lot, but still seeing a little bit of love here. So I do want to note the Clockwork automaton and up here on the top end, give you a little more damage to replace the speed and damage that you lose from losing rapid fire. So yeah, HL, you want to cover White Delight's checks?
Sure thing. So, White Delight we featured here before. He always has some spice to bring along, and spice he has brought. Oh, he did bring some White Delight spice here. So, first one, uh, Quest Rogue with Blade Master Samuro. So, people have been discussing the final card, and it's not really anything that really sticks well. So, see Blade Master Samuro in there. Uh, Also of note, there's two evasions in there with inconspicuous riders. So this lets the rogue take its time before going for an OTK. Next up, we have Hunter, Odd Hunter. Okay. Notice the Stitch Tracker package at the top end. This is very unique to White Delight. Okay. You only have 4 minions to discover once you find the Stitch Tracker. So you can use Loatheb, Platebreaker, or Cold Blade Oracle, depending on the matchup. All very useful, very flexible. With the Mage, this is a pretty standard Ignite Mage here. Post nerf with Lorekeeper Polekilt. Okay. This takes a ton of inspiration from Jordan MG's list. And you're going to notice he cuts in an inconspicuous rider for Magister Dawn Grasp. This is hinting that he's not really expecting much aggro from his opponent, leaning more towards control, so he wants to get around spell disruption like Loatheb, hence the Magister Dawn Grasp. And then finally, even Warlock. This is a very standard list with some disruption as well. Dirty Rats, Far Watch Post, Mojo Master Zihi, which has been one of the more popular inclusions than even Warlock this meta. Now, given its powerful effects against Warlock and Druid, you have Nerubian and Raveler, one of White Delight's favorite tech cards in Skulking Geist. That's right, we have another Geist. This time it's not even in Shaman. And then finally, the standard even lock top end. So, lots of stuff going on here. Very much hedging for slower matchups. And it seems like he hits some of those as well. So, White Delight is probably very happy with the way this turned out. So, I really want to ask about some other comments if you guys had any. But unfortunately, we do have to rush just a little bit. So we're gonna go on to the question of the week. Gonna keep it pretty simple. Just an hour or a little over an hour ago, we had new cards released. Okay, for the upcoming mini set, a few commons and rares, and I'm curious to hear what the others think of the cards in terms of wild. So we'll go to Seth first. Seth, you want to give your quick thoughts?
Sure. So for Wild, um, mini sets are really aimed at standard and kind of boosting or, adding to what's going on there. But a lot of these cards really do appear standard focused. Like the dragons seem to support archetypes that are kind of popping up there. But that doesn't mean they don't have application in Wild. Like the priest dragon that was revealed, if you're holding a shadow and a holy spell, it deals 3 damage to either all minions or all enemy minions. That could be really interesting in kind of a slower priest if Reno Priest ever makes its return. And the other one I know that I had seen some excitement around was the 5 mana shaman spell. Very reminiscent of Volcano, the deal 15 to all minions, but this spell does 10 to all enemy minions. And it overloads 1, but roughly 5.5 mana to probably wipe your opponent's board isn't really that bad of a deal. And I could see it definitely being used in different shaman shells. So I'm kind of excited to see more cards, but I wouldn't count the ones that we saw today out quite yet.
Fair enough. Hyprin, what do you think of the cards?
Uh, I am not sure yet. I think like Seth said, they are definitely aimed at standard. I think most of them are kind of not quite at the power level needed to see play. None of them really slot into any current like good wild decks. I mean maybe maybe some of them can find a home in more like niche decks, but I don't think they're gonna have at least the ones we have so far don't look like they're gonna impact any current meta decks, at least from my point of view. I think if I had to rate a card that I think is probably one of the better ones here, I'd say Welt Bonker, honestly. It's kind of like it's like an Acolyte of Hand, but a lot of the times it's better. It's like there are a lot of 1 health minions, especially, decks like Pirate Warrior, this will draw so many cards. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't
You
think
know,
I don't think any of them are gonna define the format anyway, but maybe I'm
you know,
wrong.
it's really funny you say that because I was thinking the same. Where well, Bonker has some potential, and it is very reminiscent of Acolyte of Pain.
Mhm.
The one deck I do actually see it potentially seeing play in is Inner Fire Priest.
Mm.
Okay, uh, the aggro version is very desperate for draw. It's got a big body. This thing draws as well. It works with Drekthar, and as of now, Deathlord is a bit underwhelming in the archetype, I'd say. So finding a replacement for that, really good. This doesn't get blocked by Nerubian or Nerubar Weblord, so there is synergy there. And like I said, has a lot of health, so you can do some cool things with it. Can see it being tested there, and if it pans out, Inner Fire Priest just got better.
Very happy to hear that.
So yeah. So with that, definitely looking forward to seeing the other cards that are in store. We'll know the rest of the set by Monday, I think. Tuesday's the release, so very short reveal time. And then those poor suckers in Masters Tour have 24 hours to play with the cards or
Uh,
submitting their lineups. I am
yeah.
not jealous of them. Imagine competing in the standard format. Couldn't be me. Heh, heh, heh. Shout out Neji one more time.
Uh,
But yeah. Just want to say thanks to all you guys for being here. Thanks to the casters. Thanks Fish for operating as always. Thanks for Seth for sticking around. He actually has to leave for a meeting like ASAP, but he was kind enough to stick around and say goodbye too. So, any final words? Seth, feel free to go first.
It's glad that I got to catch a show. My schedule's been hectic, but I was really missing being on here.
Yeah, always happy to have you on.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a lot of fun. It's always a pleasure to do this. So yeah, thanks for letting me come on.
Yeah, of course, anytime. Really appreciate it. And Fish, your operator. I know you're also doing Thursday Throwsdown. You want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So we're gonna have 3 matches coming up right after this. Starting with JR Juggerlaw versus Classy Thug at 8 p.m., followed by Super Murloc versus Karufinway, and the Big Ted versus Donde. All 3 are Legacy Series matches. All 3 have playoff implications, possibly, as these teams are all, either trying to claw their way into it or hold their spot. So, hope you all, ladies and gentlemen, come around and tune in for that.
For sure. Seems very exciting. With that, we're gonna head off. Channel will be taking a 10-minute break, and then we'll be back with Thursday Throwdown. So make sure to stick around for that. Until then, we'll see you next time. So take care, guys.
See ya.